Hey, greetings, friends, members, everyone. Welcome in another edition of Making Your Practice a Little Bit Better. Let's go over something that's recently come up. I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but I'm part of what's called the Coding and Reimbursement Committee for Optum Health, which is an arm of United Healthcare. Now, that doesn't mean I work for the insurance company, but it means I'm an appointed member of a panel that oversees kind of the coding, the billing, the reimbursement, and I see myself kind of as that harbinger of making sure we're always part of what's going on. Well, our most recent meeting has been consistent. They go over some things that are cause some concern for me for chiropractors, and that is talking about documentation. What things are the historic high failure rates? So let's go to the slides. Let's talk about chiropractic documentation, but specifically, what are the top failures for us? Where are we missing out? And where this causes is non-payment or recoupment, which we want none of that. So I'm not doing this as a scare text, say, oh, you better, but it's just let's get in line to make sure we're getting better. It's frustrating to me because this has been this way for a while. So what are these top factors for documentation? And you may say, well, Sam, I don't care. I do mostly cash. Well, remember the state board's still looking as well. So let's talk about chiropractic documentation. What is needed? Don't make this too hard. People really kind of, pull their hair out. Basically, think of it simply as was what was billed accurately documented? Now, cash or insurance, when the patient came in, did you perform a service? We have to document it. So we have to make sure everything is there. The first and foremost, obviously, for chiropractors, I think is going to be chiropractic manipulative therapy, the CMT code. There's physical medicine services we do, so we have to make sure, are we documenting those things? What was done, where it was done, and so forth. What's the purpose? Including evaluation management, E&M codes. What are we documenting? How are we making sure that's okay? And then, of course, even x-rays. We don't run into too much trouble there, but let's kind of get into where are the common and the highest failure rate. Well, the highest failure rate, I'll have to say I'm frustrated because I teach continuing education seminars. Many of you are members with me, and I feel I have failed you somehow because I've been doing these a while. I want to do better at this. Timed services are the number one area for chiropractors that we have a failure when we're audited or notes are looked at. This to me should be the simplest thing that we could take care of without being a big issue. So let's make sure we're putting down time services. Realize 25% of the time, a quarter of us are still doing this. Realize though, and I'll say in our defense, we're actually a little bit better than the physical therapists and the speech therapists and so forth, but not by a lot. So what are we talking about with time services? Of course, are the 15-minute codes. Ultrasound's a 15-minute code. All the hands-on, massage, exercise, and so forth are 15-minute codes. Do keep in mind they do use the 8-minute rule. We'll get into that. But let's start making sure when you're documenting time services, guess what you need? How much time did I spend? And not just overall the visit took 50 minutes, but how much time for each individual service. So keep in mind this 8-minute rule means you actually don't have to spend 15 minutes to bill one unit. If you do as little as 8 minutes, that could be a unit. Now, 8 minutes is pretty short, but certainly could fit in some instances. So keep in mind for one single unit, could it be as little as 8? So you see a little chart here. One unit is 8 minutes, but all the way through 22 minutes. Be careful. Sometimes people think, well, if I do 8 minutes of this service and 8 minutes of that service, that equals 2 units. It does not. If you do 8 plus 8, how many minutes is that? 16. How many units is 16? Well, if we refer to our chart, you'll notice 8 to 22 is 1. So therefore, even though you've done 2 services, you've only done enough time for 1 unit. Therefore, you get to bill only 1 unit. Well, good news, at least at the higher valued service. What's important to keep in mind is that make sure you're putting time down. Don't just say, I did it. Tell me how much time you did it. Make it part of what you do, whether you want to put the number of minutes or you simply want to put a from and to time. To me, it doesn't matter so long as you're doing one or the other and it matches. So one of the things to do, you should be a self-audit, is verifying in my notes. I billed out 3 units. Am I documenting that I spent 38 minutes total? Realize, what if I spent, I don't know, 15 minutes on one, 12 on another, and 12 on another? Would that be enough? Well, sure. That would be more than the 38 minutes. No one of them can be less than 8. That's the whole big thing. And that continues all the way throughout. What you have to keep in mind, though, is that time services are cumulative. So if you do 10 minutes of exercise and 10 minutes of massage, that's fantastic. But the total number of minutes is how many? 20. which means 1 unit. But conversely, what if you spent, I don't know, 12 minutes on one of the services and 11 minutes on the other? That would be 23, wouldn't it? That would equal 2 units. And it is that picky. So start getting used to marking down the amount of time. And don't be caught up with saying, oh, I think it was 10. I want to know exactly. In fact, I'm nervous beyond massage. I find it weird that people spend exactly 15 minutes on many time services. Massage makes sense to me. You turn a timer on, you massage, the timer goes off, you stop. But for exercise, is it exactly 15 minutes, meaning you're just going to exercise? Once we have 15 minutes, we stop? Or do you have a regimen of exercises? Some days they take a little longer or shorter. So often the time is not going to be exactly 15. And I'm not saying that it can't be, but keep in mind, if everything's exactly 15, that sounds odd. Nothing ever taken shorter or longer. Key factor here, just mark time down. Now, what about when it comes to CMT? Is CMT timed? It is not. So therefore, we don't need to worry about time for a CMT. You know what we have to worry about though for CMT? Did we have the diagnosis and the regions manipulated? Be careful. Don't pick your CMT code based on how many regions I manipulated. Because what if you diagnose only cervical? That's fine. What if you adjust full spine with diversified? It's still a 98940. So it has to match both diagnosis and regions manipulated. Special note for all insurances, if you put the regions like cervical or thoracic, that would be fine. Note for Medicare, it does require specific vertebra. So CMT, not time, not a big deal. Just make sure it matches. However, for time codes, we have to make sure how are we documenting time? And I want you to see that there's 2 acceptable methods. Don't get fancy here. What are the acceptable methods? A specific number of minutes, like I spent 15, 18, 21, or do a from and to time, like 9:30 to 9:45. Either is acceptable. What's not acceptable is doing things of this nature. Time in the force of I did so many units. Nope. Or saying I did a range of time. There can't be a range. It's got to be one or the other, not a range. And you can't just say, oh, I did it times 2, or I just check a box. Start putting the time. How many minutes did I spend face to face? Remember, this does include a little pre-service and post-service work. It's not just the time the service is absolutely hands-on, but all the work associated with it, the pre and post, including documentation of the service itself, assuming face-to-face with a patient. In fact, to make sure, you'll see here, this is United. I've dealt with a lot of these. And it says for any time-based procedure codes, the duration of service must be clearly documented in the record. So there's nothing you can say, oh, well, I did a sort of time. Tell me. And you're going to see, whoa, I just wrote it up this way. But notice here, note it's got to be time-based codes. Unacceptable to just say, I did a time. How many minutes? Don't say units. Don't say a range. Okay. It's got to be increment or that it's not mentioned at all. Remember, if you have a time code where you don't mention time, it's going to come back. 25% of the time this happens, let's end this. Let's make sure when you're doing a time service, mark the time down. Isn't that hard? In fact, I bet most of you spend more time than you actually document. Therefore, let's get the time there. Now, what about E&M codes? These aren't as major as time codes, but there's still about a 5% where we get it wrong. Here's the thing. If you're doing E&M codes, there's 2 ways to make sure you're choosing this code properly. It doesn't matter which one you use, just document it. If you are doing time, here's how it breaks down. Okay, 15 minutes or 10 minutes for the 202 level, 30 or 20, 203, and so on it goes. Just keep in mind, if you just spend a lot of time with every patient, I'd be a little nervous, but assuming you might have a person that comes in with a personal injury, and maybe it's not severe life-threatening, but this exam honestly takes 60 minutes. They've got multiple complaints. They've got several doctors they've been to. They're taking a armload of medications. That could take 60 minutes. Document it. The only other way to document an E&M code is based upon medical decision-making or severity. Now, I'm kind of dumbing this down a little bit to keep it simple, though. When someone has one simple complaint or minor problem, that's a 202, 212. If they have 2 or more complaints, oh, my neck, my shoulder, my neck, my knee, that's going to be a 203, or any type of acute trauma. The 04 gets a little harder for us, and this is where personal injury may come in, but acute or chronic complicated injuries, not simple stuff, not simple strains and sprain, but maybe some radiating pain. Because the '05 and 15 means a threat to life. So you can see, I don't think the '05 is ever going to happen based upon medical decision making. Not saying never ever, but mostly it's probably going to be time. My key factor here is avoid having problems. When you have an E&M code, you should put a reason for doing it. At the end of it, I would say the choice of code for this patient was 99203 based on 30 minutes or based on an acute trauma. But just highlight it. This is what the rule says. Don't, why fight it? It's simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And what I think you do here, though, is you really then learn, why did I choose this code? Not just like, oh, I thought that's what I do. Let's break it down. And then finally, for x-ray, this one comes up. I go, well, for x-rays, what does it have to be documented? Well, remember, an x-ray is kind of everything. It's the professional. It's the taking of the image. And, all of the, or excuse me, professionals review the image. Technical is taking it. Then, of course, reviewing it, interpreting it, writing a report that's signed, communicating with the patient, and all the things that go with that. So all of that's there. There is no separate billing. Some of you say, well, I'm doing a really special report. Okay. It's still a report. Now, if you can argue there's something way above and beyond, but understand x-rays are inclusive of all those factors, including telling the patient about it. Now, if there's something more complicated, maybe there might be some ways of billing an E&M code for counseling, maybe, but realize x-rays is inclusive. The main factor today is kind of understanding where's the big area for us, and this is what I want to fix. Please document your time for time services. If it's not written down, remember, it didn't happen. We're always going to be a help. And remember, network members with me today, because it's the beginning of March. There's been an update for California Work Comp. Reach out to me. Get your Zooms ready. Let's get you one-on-one. If you're not a member, you may want to be. Give me a chance to be an expert for your office. Until next time, my friends, take care.